All right, so we have a new setup.
Yeah, look at it.
Okay, so we're a little bit better, don't you
Yeah,
think?
a little bit lower makes us. We don't quite look like Smurfs.
I don't think I could ever really look like a Smurf, but that's just me. I don't think so.
I could look like alfalfa. For those of you who are old enough to know about alfalfa.
Well, I have to tell you too, her avatars are wonderful. She's done a great job. Have you sent them to people other than me? What did they say?
My daughter, she likes them. I love the one with the samurai sword.
I do
It's
too.
so apropos.
It is. It is. But if I ever get one of those, I might go, okay, what? What did you save those for the times it's like, okay. My sister sent me a video the other day, and all it was a video of her. It was a live video though, but all she was sitting there doing was she was taking her earrings out. And I thought, so I automatically sent, do I need to send bail money? Because when she starts taking her earrings out, when she's sitting there going and taking her earrings out, I know someone or something
is in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't ever know who. So yeah. So anyway, it was just like, do we need bail money? No, we're good. Oh, there's plenty of meat to go around. I'm just trying to get my little floppy top. But anyway, so everything going well?
Yes. Do you have pepper spray in your purse?
I do not have it in my purse, no, because mine is outdated and I need to update it.
So today, I brought you a jar of kosher jalapeno peppers. So they're great. You can take them out. You can put them in salads. You can put them on pizza. You can just enjoy them. My husband makes them into sandwiches. But why I'm getting to this is that I just sliced them all up and just put them in the jar and went to take my shower and went. I just pepper sprayed my eyes.
Yes, and it takes you a while,
so
right?
I'm a little bloodshot that you could make your own pepper spray. Just boil it up and put it in your container and you're good to go.
It is amazing how it will drop a person.
Yes.
I mean, because they really can't see, and it takes a lot of milk. It takes a lot of everything. So,
and you have to really know. Actually, almost everything needs some kind of training. You really need.
Yeah, you do.
Well, your husband would train you.
Yeah, we did it in women's self-defense, and he kind of trained us and showed us. But
exactly, yes, because sometimes it can turn on you if you don't do it right.
Yeah, because I have a stun gun too.
Ooh.
Yeah, not a taser.
That's a taser.
There's a difference. Tasers shoot out.
Yep.
Stun guns will just stun you.
Yep. One's electric and one is like, ouchies, you just shot me with something. I have little pinholes in me. Yes.
And so anyway, that needs a little bit of explanation too, and not in the hands of people that don't like you.
Yes. Yes. So all of these little self-defense things are kind of cool.
Well, I threw something at her last week for her to, and of course, she automatically starts researching. But I had read this article, and I want to find out her take on it. I had read the article, and it was about how South Korea, right? South Koreans were trying to save up salt. They were trying to, and I guess they were getting kind of scared and everything too, because Japan has a nuclear power plant, the way I understand it. And supposedly, I guess it's been decommissioned, and supposedly garnered safe, but they're getting ready to dump everything into the ocean, the Pacific Ocean.
Well, because they had that problem with it once.
Right, because of the storm.
Yes.
The tsunami or whatever.
So now they're just getting rid of.
And they say they filtered it enough to where it's okay. But, I don't know about government levels of okay. And then they're going to be putting it in there. And so it's going to affect the fish and animal life and who knows what else. So explain this to us.
Nuclear power plants. And I'm sure you can find videos. And I mean, years ago, I've seen some of this. They have the radioactive rods go down into water.
Okay.
And then they have the big cooling towers because the water from the radiation heats up and you have to have it completely, cool down. You get these silos that are kind of neat because they're concave and they come up. So that it's an increase in cooling the water.
Okay.
Because what you've done, instead of straight, you've pushed in, so you've got more area
Okay,
to
okay.
cool the water. And if you ever go past some of those power plants, you'll see the steam coming out, and it's white. So what my understanding is that because of this issue with this power plant, they have decommissioned it and taken things and gotten rid of it, but they still have some of the water that has tritium, which is an isotope of hydrogen. That's H3
Okay.
instead of
Tree
H1.
being,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it means it's got atomic weight of 3 instead of atomic weight of 1. So it's radioactive and it's going to eventually decay. And what they sounds like they're just going to now dump that water into the ocean there. That the South Koreans seems like they bring it in, evaporate the water out, so that they can have salt.
because I guess they have no salt mines and different
Probably
things.
don't
Or
have salt mines. So it's very interesting because, and that's what I was trying to ask that little thing back there about it. Does the tritium combine with oxygen to become part of the water molecule? H2O, 2 molecules of hydrogen to 1 of oxygen, H2O,
so what makes it radioactive?
because it has extra neutrons and protons, and
Okay.
it has to decay. Okay, so it has to decay, it has to break down. And obviously, we just asked Alexa. We asked her, and she said large quantities can be harmful to humans.
Mhm. And see, but I'm sure that nobody truly knows how this will affect, and you won't know until years down the road when things are correct.
There's so much. I'm glad you brought this back up. There's so much that, and don't let me forget to talk about some of these, and I got to write them down. Food allergies and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And salt, we need salt. If somebody, I had one of our ladies working out here, and they took all salt away from her. She ended up in the ICU because you need sodium
Mm-hmm.
for your nervous system. You need chlorine for your digestive system, and salt is NaCl.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And there are some that you need. There are some minerals and stuff and vitamins and all you need to take together to make them work properly, because they don't break down or do not work as
You need-
well when if they're not
those
together.
are
Correct?
enzymes and coenzymes. Some things you have to have that to work synergy together. You're right, and it's just so the salt, we need salt.
And we just want it for flavor. I mean, we're even told in the Bible to be the salt of the earth. I mean, for flavor and also, seasoning,
you need-
but also for curing.
Oh, absolutely, yes, curing. Now, animals need salt. You put salt licks out for your cattle.
And sometimes we're just salting the wound. Not wound.
Well,
wound.
wound.
The sore. When you put salt in it. But sometimes
It's a
that's
purifier. Now, if you get a bad bite, boy, we're just going off, but if you get a bad bite and it starts to get infected and you can see the little tendrils of red, you can make a paste. I use baking soda and salt, and I get it pasty, and I put it right on there. And the principle is like an osmosis. Osmosis is with water, but with this diffusion, it's concentrated. The poison's more concentrated in the wound than it is in the baking soda. So it literally starts to soak the poison out.
okay.
And you just leave it on there until it dries and then wipe it off. And you do that a few times, and it'll eventually suck that poison out of spider bites that seem to be really bad.
How about mosquito bites?
I've never tried it on that, but it would probably work. I should try it on my husband's chigger bites. He got into a batch of those. But so salt is,
Salt is very
Salt.
useful. I mean,
Oh,
and you do need it for purifying sometimes. Sometimes you need it to, yes. So we need salt. And so I can understand when I read the article, and I guess because we do science things on here, that was like, this might be something to discuss, because we don't realize it. But, I think about the people in California or on the Pacific coast, because we don't know what all this will do to anybody. And I mean, if they're capturing and catching fish and shipping them anywhere
have
and
no idea.
we don't know what's going to be in this food and stuff. So I mean, and that's why they tell you to watch when you buy things, where it's coming from and what's going on, because it could be tainted or something. So you've got to be
Well-
really careful. And then these people want their salt. They need their
Need their
salt.
salt.
And so anyway, it just intrigued me to think about it from a scientific point, because to me, you're looking at a couple of different things. You were looking at the salt, because I was trying to figure out why they were worried about the ocean with their salt, but then she explained about the distilling of it, and then they were keeping the
Right,
salt.
they were keeping the salt. We were talking about where salt, we get a lot of our salt. And I grew up in Watkins Glen, which we still make, there were 2 salt plants there. One was Watkins salt and one was Clute salt. I can't remember exactly what they were sold by. I'm not sure what the brand is now. It originally was Morton salt.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still mining it. So you can imagine how, I think it was the late 1800s, they discovered that layer of salt below Seneca Lake. So they're still mining it. And one of our workout ladies mentioned that they are mining salt, I believe, in Wyoming. No, he's like, wait a minute. But it was at one time underwater. And it was salt water.
Interesting.
And when that water evaporates, the salt will come out.
Okay, and it'll just be sitting there
It'll be
left.
sitting there, yes.
So once all the water evaporates out of it, what's left is the salt.
And it's a fun experiment to do with kids, is to superheat water. In other words, boil water, okay? And then dump in a lot of salt, because superheated water expands, and it's got a lot of space, and it will take up and dissolve that salt. And then as it cools and evaporates out, the salt will form nice little cubic crystals. And it's a fun experiment.
I'll have to try that too. That'll be interesting. Very good.
It is. And you can look at it depending on how big the crystals are, it's a very cubic shape.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of salt,
Okay.
There's table salt, which they say is not good for you.
Some table salt, if you look at it, is not sodium chloride. It's with a phosphate in it. So it doesn't have the same compounds.
Now, I use kosher salt. Now, I don't know what kosher salt is, but I like the flavor, and I don't have to use as much. I can just sprinkle a little bit. I've got some salt flavor. It's just really tiny, but and I've got to where I can grind it if I want it smaller.
Yes.
But if I'm just putting it in something to cook or season, it'll dissolve on down. But it gives, you don't have to use very much at all. And I've heard that was really good for you. So what is kosher salt?
Alexa,
You're my Alexa.
what is the compound salt in kosher salt? Let's see if she knows it.
From foodfactchecks.com. Kosher salt is a quality coarse-grained edible salt that consists of the compound sodium chloride.
There it is.
If you're ever looking for cooking inspiration, just ask me to find
It is
recipes.
kosher salt is the salt you want. It's sodium chloride.
Okay, so that's pure sodium chloride.
Pure sodium
and that's why it
chloride.
doesn't take as
Yes.
much. It's
Yes.
just pure. Okay. So now then you go into, which is another one, they have sea salt. So I'm assuming that comes from the sea, but you can't go by names anymore because it may not, which one day that would be a good podcast. Things that you can't really look at the name and say. So I can't say that it's actually sea salt. So explain to me what sea salt is.
Sea salt is going to be probably any salt-formed mineral that's in that ocean water. So you got,
But see,
phosphorus chloride. You can have other types of chloride salts. So it's a mixture of all kinds of salts.
Because organic does not mean necessarily organic. So, you can label things organic if they've been handled a certain way. So sea salt could be, we took a little bit of the sea and we're going to name it sea salt. I don't use sea salt as much, but I mean, I know some people like that, they like that opposed to table. We've done away with table salt. We use kosher.
I have kosher salt, which I used in my pickle juice today because they call for it. And it's specific because it's real salt. And you have to, when you buy your table salt, look at it on back. It'll tell you which compound. A lot of it's phosphate chloride, which is not sodium chloride.
Because phosphates we want to stay away from, correct?
Well, the PO4s, you don't want phosphates, and they took those out of detergents years ago. Phosphates are needed for energy.
But there's got to be another way to get it.
Yeah, you can eat vegetables, and you get it from most of your food. But it's a sneaky way of not really giving you sodium chloride.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where you stay away from table salt.
And that's why sometimes I think people have to salt so much. It's because it's not true salt. Okay, so
now you've convinced me I should go home and just check on all my salt containers.
How about Himalayan salt?
That pink salt?
And it's supposed to be healing as well, right?
No. That's because it's just got a mineral in it. I'm not sure what the pink mineral is, but it's.
But now, do you eat Himalayan salt?
I have some of that. At any given time, I might put it.
But don't they make the salt lamps from it? And don't they?
Yeah, it's supposed to be some kind of healing stuff. I do have a big salt lamp, because it's pretty. And you can lick it.
It's supposed to ionize or iodize, but I've also heard of these in Richmond. One time they had it. I don't know if it's still there or not, but they used to have and I think it was like a Himalayan salt place that you could go, and especially if you had breathing issues, you could go, and it has supposed to have some healing properties.
I don't know. I have no idea. That sort of goes along with goat yoga. I have no idea if it's that good for you or not. Depends on how the goat is there and how you're sitting in the salt mine.
It's just interesting to me because, a lot of times they'll tell you to lay off salts because it causes a swelling. But I don't feel like with the kosher salt, I don't feel like it affects me as much. I can tell when I eat processed foods.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've got fake salt or something.
Well, MSG is like that salt enhancer.
Okay.
I can't handle that. Monosodium glutamate. I mean, that is a type of salt that they put in, and it really is.
And I guess it's like a preservative.
Yes.
And so that's why a lot of people get sick or headaches and stuff from the MSG when they eat Chinese food and various things.
I can't eat that.
But, if you cook yourself and you can put what you need and you just taste it. And, I don't know, I just like it so much better.
Well, what I made today was, the pickled kosher pickle jalapeno peppers. So I have a recipe for making kosher pickles.
Okay.
And it calls for like rock salt, or coarse salt. Kosher salt, coarse salt, which is really real salt.
So kosher is coarse?
It's coarse.
Yeah, I know it's coarse, but I mean kosher. You think of kosher because the Jews and stuff that eat kosher.
That's right, and it's coarse salt, and it specifically I keep that for my canning stuff. So yes, and as you heard that lady say back there, it's NaCl.
Well, it's so funny because she messaged me. Do you like jalapenos? Mm-hmm. Do you like kosher pickles? Yes, I'm giving this big sign of
Okay.
Never knew was
what you were gonna
getting kosher jalapeno pickles or peppers, pickles or whatever they are.
And they're so good, and it's a way of keeping them. Like I said, we put them if I make a pizza.
See, you're giving me ideas.
Yes, and you just slice it. And they have seeds, so they're going to be warm. Because the seeds give it the heat.
Yeah, the seed is what. Yeah, if you ever cook and you use a hot pepper, the seeds are what are going to give you the heat, not the outside.
Not
so
the outside.
Just if you like a little bit, leave some seeds.
That's
if you
exactly
don't, then take everything out.
So when you use those, you can take the seeds out or leave them in or whatever. I mean, my husband makes sandwiches, so I'm probably going to make several jars more because I'd rather have those than a kosher pickle.
Okay, well, so I can't wait to try because I usually, when I do have peppers, I usually pickle them, but I don't pickle them that way. I just usually throw them in vinegar, and then, like you said, you can use them in other things later and stuff.
Well, that's a kosher. The only thing I didn't know with a kosher recipe, and we have it, I was just too lazy to walk out to get it. You're supposed to put a grape leaf in.
Yeah, see, my aunt and my aunt used to make grape leaf pickles.
That's
I love a grape leaf pickle.
It's
Love
called
it.
for grape, but I don't put them in those because they're not. I might if I get.
She would throw a
into-
couple of green down in there, couple of
Yes.
green leaves, and then she sewed some green grapes down in it. And but anyway, it was the best pickle ever.
That's that. You
Ah.
put the grape leaf and fresh dill. Now I went out, which I thought I had dill, but it morphed. I'm like, oh, that does, and I smelled it. I'm like, that does not smell like
No,
dill.
dill when it doesn't when it's not dilly.
It was not dilly, so I had
It's
some
not
ground dill. So I put a little ground dill in that, and
But I love fresh dill.
yeah, I didn't put any garlic
Well,
or anything.
I'm
in
really
there. So
excited to try.
I didn't put garlic in this, so it's just kosher dilled with a little dill, salt, and apple cider vinegar, which had salt in it too, the kosher salt. But when you can, I put a little bit more salt because again, the salt will kill any kind of bacteria. And then, of course, they were in the pressure cooker for a while. So they're still warm. It's like, oh, these are hot. But I like doing that. And the next batch, I will try to do it the right way. And you'll get another jar because there's lots of jalapenos out there and there's only so much you can do. You can only eat so many of them.
Well, do you freeze them and use them as poppers later or anything?
I know. I have not done that.
Because I think you can. Can't you just freeze them whole, wash them, and freeze them?
You probably can. Sometimes peppers get a little bitter when you freeze them.
Okay.
So you have to. I try to be careful with that.
Okay.
But doing it this way, you could take one out and put some cream cheese on it and just eat it with kosher dill jalapeno with cream cheese.
And smoked salmon.
No, I don't like salmon.
Okay. See, I like salmon.
I don't like salmon.
I haven't had. I want to try smoked salmon with a bagel and.
Lox.
Is that what? Is that what lox?
Lox. Yep.
But lox is the
Yeah.
salmon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to try that. But you had me thinking about something when you said this, and I want to make sure people understand. When you read your blood work, if you ever go to the doctor and read your blood work,
Yes.
if you look at it closely, we're made up of a lot of minerals.
Oh, yes. We were just talking about lack of magnesium and how it affects your intestinal tract.
Well, it affects your brain.
Oh, my
It affects
goodness.
so many things. In fact, I just went and got me another jar today because I like to have magnesium on hand. I did not realize until I was coming back when my dad was sick and stuff, and I was driving down the road, and this guy was on there, and he's like talking about headaches and stuff. He was like, if you have frequent headaches, he said, have you checked your magnesium level? But see, magnesium, which is like milk of magnesia too, it's got magnesium in it. And so it will help your body keep flowing, which helps your liver purge. But when your liver is stopped up, then that can cause headaches as well. So we don't realize how many things in our
Everything
body
is
works together.
working together. When I had that diverticulitis, I had a little headache.
Because you weren't functioning.
Exactly. I'm like, and trying to get everything working together.
And so when you're sick, sometimes it takes you a while to get all your little things back correctly. But you need to make sure that you do get everything back correctly, because sometimes your salt will get thrown off, or sometimes your potassium gets thrown off, or sometimes, chloride. I look at mine sometimes and it's like, okay, well, this is a little, but one of the biggest things to me that you need to look at is your pH.
Yes.
Because we don't realize it, but we are, if our pH is off, it can cause diseases.
Too much acid, too much base.
Mm-hmm. And if you start learning your body, you will know when you're acidic and when you're not.
That's a whole other thing. Good research. I've got to try doing some of that.
Okay, well, let's do that one day, because I don't know if people understand this.
pH,
I didn't realize it
pH
so much.
stands for potential hydrogen. Okay. So hydrogen ion, hydrogen plus. Okay. And the opposite of that is hydroxyl, which is OH negative. Okay. So 7 is neutral.
And that's where you want to be. As close to it as you can.
Yes. If you go to one end up, plus, become basic hydroxides. Okay. The hydroxyl OH. If you go down, then you become more acidic.
And acidic is where a lot of diseases start getting in, I think, right?
Your stomach needs to be acidic to digest food, which there you need chlorine to make your acid to digest. But you have to watch for each one.
Yeah, you don't want to go too far. I mean, if you're, 7 is, like you said, 7 is
7's
perfect.
neutral, yep.
And it's perfect.
Yep.
But, if you're, 6, I mean, you're
Yeah.
okay. But, I mean,
Depends on what's going on in your system. And water, you want water in upstate New York had a pH of 9. Very basic, which means it was like soapy.
okay, but is that good for you or not?
Not really. No.
But do you need to have the higher to bring, if you're acidic, do you want the higher to help bring
You
up?
need to neutralize it with an acid. Because
Okay.
you have OH, you have H plus and OH negative. If you put them together, what do you get? H2O, water. So if you have OH, you want to put in an acid to neutralize that.
But if you're too acidic,
And
don't
then-
you want the higher one
And then
to
you
help?
need the other one, yes. So one neutralizes the other, yes, exactly.
And there are ways, I know we've only got a couple minutes before we have to get off of this, but this would be interesting. We do need to do this because there are ways you can test to see if you're acidic.
Oh, sure.
There are ways, or if you're, I guess you're the other way as well, but you can see if your pH is off, and you do need
We
to
have to
keep.
look into that too.
And I test my water at home sometimes.
I do too,
For the
with the
acid,
litmus test,
yes.
the litmus
And so you can see if it's, where the pH is, and a lot of times, especially I guess in the country, it's off.
It can be different, yes, depending
So-
on what minerals come into that.
Mhm.
And I have pH paper that you could just order, and I've done that. It's the same type of thing that you do in a swimming pool. Check your
Yeah,
pH.
exactly, and that's what I do. So we'll have to talk about this one, but that's fun. All right, guys. Well, we will. We're going to get off of this one, and then we'll come back and we'll check you out again.
Yes.
Hope you found this one
This
informative.
was fun.
Bye.